Hello everyone, this is Ange. Welcome to another episode of the Visual Novel Monthly Recap, this time talking about news that happened in August of 2025. Type Moon and Aniplex have released their official translation of Fate Hollow Ataraxia Remastered. This is a strange sequel plus fan disc of the original Fate Stay Night visual novel. It features a unique mix of a fan disc-like story where all the main characters of Fate Stay Night mostly take part in goofy slice-of-life scenes. There's also a surprising amount of plot related to time loops and the introduction of new characters like Bazette, Karen, and Avenger. I personally have not read this title yet, despite it having a fan translation for a long time. Remember to unmute Shiro's voice once he starts speaking in the game. It's muted by default for some reason. The Operation Bellflower fan translation group has finally released the fan translation for Senohhat Sukis Noki, which the fan translation team localized the name as Senmano, a billowing blade, Storm, a peach blossom princess. The original developer was called August, fitting for this month. This is by the same writer and developer that made Aayokonia. Similar to Justia, it features a high fantasy setting and a ladder route structure. However, it has a more defined plot from the beginning. The main character, Sojin, a swordsman with amnesia, must protect a fighter princess, Akari, as she aims to reclaim her homeland, which was taken over by an empire, and to become its rightful ruler again. There was some mild controversy on VNDB about whether this title was machine translated, as the original fan translator progressed through the translation process quite quickly at first. However, as someone who was able to preview the translation before its release, I can confidently say this was not machine translated. The patch was crafted with a lot of care, with many delays due to thorough quality control and even subtitling movies. It does look like the machine translation tag was removed on VNDB after discussion topic talked about it. To double the fitting August surprises, for those who have somehow been holding off from reading Aayokonia despite the fan translation being leaked over a year ago, the Justia fan translation group finally decided to release their final version after many edits and changes. From what I've read, this is definitely the best version to read in English. I was on the team as QC, so if you're curious about what got changed from the leaked version, it was mostly another translation and editing pass, as well as changing the text to be more readable and to prevent more text overflow, meaning no more issues with sentences getting cut off. For those who consider this series of visual novels, the four mainline Corpse Party titles have been compiled into a single Nintendo Switch port, available physically on PlayAsia, though it appears to be sold out at the time of this recording. Manga Gamer has released a survey related to their store. More specifically, they asked questions about any issues with functionality people have with their site, like searching for visual novels. They also asked if people have had issues that would affect payments, and most interestingly, they asked if people are okay with making payments with cryptocurrency, and asked users to suggest other potential payment avenues they would like to see. Ramune Games has announced a new visual novel called Love Advisor, You're a Mess, and I Adore You. These are the same developers that made Lingerie S and will release on Steam sometime in the future. Harmonic Reflections by Laplacian originally got a basically full AI translation when it was released earlier this year. A user on the subreddit R Visual Novels called JVHSH made a topic stating that he approached Laplacian and got hired to do a full human retranslation. If you're unsure if this guy is legit, he claims to have done translation work for Asia's region official Crunchyroll English subtitles like ReZero Season 3, Windbreaker Season 2, and A Sign of Affection. The only visual novel related work he's claimed to have done is the currently announced but not released Kenzen. Shortly after user JVHSH offered to be a human translator for Laplacian, he was able to forward any Laplacian response to addressed community concerns about their past decisions, particularly regarding their use of machine translation for Harmonic Reflections. Following the backlash, they've committed to never using machine translation again, hiring said dedicated translator and 2 proofreaders to ensure quality. They also explained the removal of adult 18+ titles from their website, citing funding restrictions in Japan, but plan to restore their catalog if finances stabilize. Laplacian is now focusing purely on all ages releases and has appointed the translator JVHSH to improve communication with English-speaking fans. They aim to rebuild trust through transparent actions, starting with a full human retranslation with Harmonic Reflections, and promise to listen to feedback and correct mistakes moving forward. That said, Newton and the Apple Tree not being available on Steam or able to be restored was noted due to licensing and rights issues, which is likely in reference to Soul Press. Given that this whole topic is just a third-party PR statement, I take it with a grain of salt for now. Mages and P-Cube have released Iwakura Aria on Steam and Nintendo Switch. This is one of the few titles by Mages that is neither a science adventure title nor an old VN remaster to be released recently, making it interesting to see how it will perform overall. Aside from the fact that some VNDB tags include Yuri or girl-on-girl romance and the Showa era setting, I'll recap the Steam description. The Iwakura mansion holds a dark secret. Ichigo, a young maid, joins the household seeking nothing but safety and security, but soon finds herself entangled with the beautiful daughter of the Iwakura family. Unravel the secrets of the Iwakura mansion in this gripping suspense visual novel. A video review I watched by Tanner of the North described it as a toxic Yuri that felt like it was written by Edgar Allan Poe. At the Otakon anime convention, Denpasoft, also known as Sekai Projects' 18+ branch, had a few notable announcements. The previously announced store Denkai Shoten has launched. Just as a reminder, this is where they are specifically moving all physical products from Denpasoft to this new store. They even have a new social media presence on X-Itter if you want to see what new products they're going to sell there. They also announced another nukige called the Do As I Say series, developed by Girls' Software. This is by the same developer that made the Kuri Kuri Click series, which had a grope simulator-like system where touching the girls in certain places gets certain reactions and H scenes depending on where you interact. The visual novel based on the VTuber Nekomata Okayu called Okayu Numu has been released on Steam. It features both Japanese and English text. This was developed by Enneagram and published by CCMC Corp, and it's notable that Enneagram previously made another Hololive VTuber visual novel called Aquarium, which was based on the now graduated VTuber Minato Aqua. I'm going to assume the Okayu Numu VN will be similar to the Aquarium one, and that it'll be mostly comedy based with a bunch of references to the original VTubers' style of personality and jokes, though apparently might have some semblance of a plot. Similar to the Minato Aqua visual novel, the two major VTubers featured in the visual novel, Okayu and Korone, do all the voice acting for their respective characters. Kagura Games has released Ichigo's Study Sessions, developed by Soft Circle Courageous. This is a nukige about stepsisters. I don't think I need to say much more about the premise in that regard. That said, according to VNDB, this is apparently a very short game lasting less than 2 hours, and it's one of the few Kagura Games releases that is a full visual novel with no gameplay elements. For those who have been looking forward to Keys' newest visual novel, Anamoy, we finally have some mostly positive news to look forward to. Apparently, this is going to be the longest modern key visual novel to date, estimated to be 1.5 times longer than Summer Pockets, which explains why it's now getting delayed past 2025. If people really want a sister route, they hinted that there could possibly be one when previously it was mentioned that she was not going to get a romance route. There's currently no plans to release an expanded edition of Anamoy like Little Buster's Ecstasy or Summer Pockets Reflection Blue, as this is going to be as big as Clannad in the sense that every single heroine will have a route from the start. The soundtrack will also be very long, and there will be quite a number of mini-games as expected of key visual novels. While expected, it is nice to know that there is confirmation that Anamoy will get English and Chinese translations on Steam eventually. The Japanese version is now scheduled to launch on January 30th, 2026, though it seems to imply that the English version will most likely not release at the same time, but hopefully not too long after. The only thing that could give some potential pause for quality for the visual novel is that the original director, Kai, had to be changed partway through development, likely due to being involved with Heaven Burns Red and even having to write a route for Anamoy, with a new director, Saiki Shun, who directed Stella of the End, having to step in later. This director change probably shouldn't make a huge difference, but if that bothers you, that could be the only potentially bad news. But otherwise, a pretty big update. NS2C has created a fan translation for the official Chaos Child light novel called Children's Revive. This is a story that takes place after the true route and showcases what all the major characters did after the true ending, reflecting on all the tragedies that they've been through. NS2C created this to specifically work in the EPUB format, noting that it has notable advantages over reading a PDF or Google Doc by allowing edits like text size and borders. If you've been interested in seeing what I believe is an official story after the original Chaos Child visual novel, this is something potentially worth checking out. Manga Gamer has released Lucky Dog 1, a yaoi, or boys love-centric visual novel that features a gangster protag in an Italian mafia setting, with the main character, Gian, having been in and out of jail multiple times due to how often he escapes, but with the potential of being able to rise up in the hierarchy if he can break the mafia captain out. This is an interesting case where even the Steam version of Lucky Dog is marked as adults only by default, so it looks like the H scenes are included in the Steam version without a patch. But of course, you can still get it on Manga Gamer's store if you prefer. Jast has released Yomegami My Sweet Goddess, developed by Alcott. If you have read other Alcott Moige visual novels such as My Girlfriend is the President, Onigako, or Clover Days, you'll likely know what to expect. A lot of goofy comedy with a silly premise. In this case, Yomegami has the main character, a transfer student who is actually the reincarnation of a devil that went on a rampage, with his mom being a reincarnation of a goddess, leads to his attempts at hiding his devil power at school, resulting in silly rom-com situations like accidentally kissing one of his fellow classmates. If you like Alcott's goofy premises and comedy style, you should like Yomegami as well. It appears that NekoWorks has released a remake of Nekopara Volumes 1 and I think 0, titled Nekopara Love Project Volume 1. It appears to be an all-ages VN, available exclusively for mobile devices via the Apple Store or Google Play Store. The remake includes re-recorded voice acting with a new cast, an updated user interface, and a few new scenes. When I checked the Google Play Store with my Google Pixel, the game was priced at approximately $2 and supports Japanese, English, and Chinese text, but I haven't purchased it yet. Visual Arts and Key are continuing to fulfill their promise to improve the official translation of Summer Pocket's Reflection Blue on Steam. Recently, they confirmed the development of an external patch to restore covered up or cropped lewd CGs for Shiraha, Ao, and Kamome, along with some other changes, like one where I was unaware of an option where the main character, Hairi, could have Umi nickname him Lolicon in a humorous choice. As of this moment, they have just announced the patch. If it's released before the end of the month, I'll include a link to that announcement in the description. It remains unclear if or when they will change the Switch UI and restore it to the original Japanese version of the PC UI. Miyosuki has released a beach DLC scenario for their popular visual novel Girls, 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 which, as a reminder, features characters who are traps or male characters cross-dressing as girls. The DLC can be found on Steam and the Manga Gamer store. After being available on Steam for nearly 4 years, Sekai Project has finally added a points shop and other Steam marketplace features related to their official release of Rewrite Plus. This includes typical Steam items like badges, wallpapers, and tradable cards on the market related to Rewrite characters. Manga Gamer was at the Anime NYC convention and made several visual novel announcements. They first announced that they are translating the last 2 mainline Fun Bag Fantasy visual novels that have not been translated yet, Fun Bag Fantasy 4 and 5, developed by Waffle. However, only the 4th entry currently has a Steam page and is likely to be released soon. Manga Gamer also announced that they will be translating the sequel to Welcome to a Sexy Open World, which is called Welcome to a Sexy Underworld. The premise is that the main character already had a polyamorous harem with whom he has had children with already from the first games as heroines. But it appears that in this second game, he gains a brand new harem of girls who I assume he is aiming to impregnate as well. But otherwise, this title is by Moonstone Cherry, who made the original Sexy Open World VN as well as the Imoto Paradise series, so this shouldn't be a surprise. Manga Gamer's final announcement is that they have announced an interesting piece of physical merch for the Umineko When They Cry series. It's a physical music box that plays only a music box version of the very popular battle theme composed by ZTS, World End Dominator. Looks like you can pre-order this on the Manga Gamer store right now. And that's a wrap for August of 2025. As always, if you have any feedback, positive or negative, feel free to leave a comment below or one of my social medias. A huge continued shout out to the local weeb who continues to do editing for most of my videos, and of course a shout out to all my monthly paying members on YouTube membership and Kohi. But a particular special shout out to my newest paying monthly member, Memesly, who just joined the VN Super Weirdo YouTube tier this month. Much appreciated to all of you.